Archangel Michael says, stop scrolling for a moment because this June 13th prophecy was not meant to find everyone. It was meant to find you. If you are hearing these words right now, understand that this is not an accident. Out of all the messages you could have seen today, out of all the distractions competing for your attention, your eyes landed here at this exact moment. There is a reason for that. Heaven has been arranging events behind the scenes for longer than you realize. The delays you have been fighting, the closed doors you have been questioning, the nights you spent wondering whether God had forgotten your prayers, all of it has been leading to this moment. Archangel Michael says that a divine shift has already begun, and what once seemed impossible is now moving rapidly in your favor. Do not dismiss this message. Do not assume it is for someone else. The breakthrough you have been asking for is closer than it has ever been before. For months, maybe even years, you have carried burdens that nobody truly understood. You smiled when you felt like crying. You kept moving when you felt like giving up. You continued believing even when the evidence around you suggested that nothing was changing. But heaven saw every tear. Heaven recorded every prayer. Heaven heard every whisper spoken in loneliness when nobody else was listening. And now Archangel Michael says the season of silent suffering is approaching its conclusion. A blessing with your name on it has been released. A door that seemed permanently locked is beginning to open. A chain that has limited your progress is beginning to break. You may not see the full picture yet, but spiritual movement is already taking place around you. Something is changing. Something is shifting. Something is awakening. And the people who underestimated your future are about to witness a transformation they never expected. Listen carefully because this next part is important. Archangel Michael says many people have been standing on the edge of their breakthrough without realizing it. They become discouraged just before the miracle arrives. They quit just before the answer appears. They lose hope moments before heaven moves. Do not let that happen to you. What you are experiencing right now is not rejection. It is preparation. God has been building strength inside you that could not have been developed any other way. Every challenge taught you something. Every disappointment shaped something. Every delay prepared something. And now the pieces are coming together in a way that will eventually make sense. The blessing reserved for you cannot be stolen by another person, but Archangel Michael warns that fear, doubt, and negativity can cause people to miss opportunities when they arrive. That is why this message found you today. Heaven wants your attention. Heaven wants your faith. Heaven wants you ready because what is coming next will require courage to receive. There is a reason your spirit has felt restless lately. There is a reason you have felt like something important was approaching. There is a reason certain situations have started changing unexpectedly. Archangel Michael says those feelings were not random. They were signals. Your soul was sensing movement before your eyes could see it. The breakthrough is not simply an event. It is the beginning of a new chapter. It is the moment where old limitations lose their power. It is the moment where opportunities begin appearing from directions you never considered. It is the moment where answers arrive that solve problems you thought would follow you forever. And heaven says this chapter carries more significance than you currently understand. There are blessings attached to your future that will impact not only you but also people around you. That is why the battle has been so intense. The enemy attacks what carries purpose. The enemy resists what carries destiny. The enemy fears what happens when a chosen person finally steps into what God prepared for them. But Archangel Michael says the resistance you faced is proof that something valuable has been waiting ahead. If there was nothing important attached to your future, there would have been no reason for such opposition. Yet despite everything, you are still here. Despite every setback, you are still standing. Despite every disappointment, you are still believing. And heaven honors that perseverance today. On this 13th day of June, a prophetic declaration is being released over your life. What was delayed shall begin moving. What was blocked shall begin opening. What was hidden shall begin revealing itself. What was stolen shall begin returning. What seemed impossible shall begin becoming possible. These are not merely words meant to create excitement. They are reminders that God remains active even when circumstances appear frozen. Too many people measure progress only by what they can see. Heaven measures progress differently. Sometimes the greatest miracles begin invisibly. Sometimes the biggest breakthroughs start long before physical evidence appears. Sometimes God is working most powerfully during seasons when it seems like nothing is happening. Archangel Michael says this is why you must continue believing. Continue trusting. Continue expecting. Continue preparing. Because the breakthrough has already begun moving toward you. And when it arrives, you will understand why every previous season happened exactly the way it did. There is someone listening right now who almost gave up recently. You became exhausted from waiting. You became tired of hoping. You wondered whether your situation would ever change. Archangel Michael says this message is your reminder to hold on a little longer. The story is not over. The answer has not been cancelled. The blessing has not disappeared. Heaven has not forgotten your name. In fact, heaven is calling your name right now. Heaven is reminding you that your current situation is temporary. Heaven is reminding you that your breakthrough is closer than your fears want you to believe. Heaven is reminding you that God's timing has not failed. There are developments occurring behind the scenes that you cannot yet see. Conversations are happening. Opportunities are forming. Doors are unlocking. Paths are clearing. And at the right moment, everything will begin connecting in ways that surprise even you. Archangel Michael says one of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming they know how their blessing must arrive. They expect one path while God prepares another. They focus on one opportunity while heaven creates something greater. They cling to one door while God opens several others. Stay open. Stay flexible. Stay attentive. Your breakthrough may not arrive in the package you expected. It may come through an unexpected conversation. It may come through an opportunity that seems small at first. It may come through a sudden realization that changes everything. It may come through a person God places in your path. However it arrives, Archangel Michael says you will recognize it because peace will accompany it. Divine opportunities carry a different atmosphere. They carry confirmation. They carry clarity. They carry purpose. And when the moment comes, your spirit will know. Today is not the day to focus on fear. Today is not the day to focus on limitations. Today is not the day to replay every disappointment from your past. Today is the day to remember that God specializes in impossible situations. Today is the day to remember that heaven can change circumstances faster than human logic can explain. Today is the day to remember that miracles are not restricted by statistics, opinions, or appearances. Archangel Michael says your greatest breakthrough is not defined by what others think about you. It is defined by what God has already spoken over your future. And what God has spoken cannot be permanently blocked. It cannot be permanently delayed. It cannot be permanently destroyed. The promise still stands. The blessing still exists. The breakthrough is still coming. So lift your eyes. Lift your expectations. Lift your faith. Because this June 13th prophecy carries a message heaven wanted you to hear. Your waiting season is not your final season. Your struggle is not your final chapter. Your disappointment is not your final story. A new chapter is opening. A new season is beginning. A new level is approaching. And Archangel Michael says that one day you will look back at this moment and realize it was the turning point where everything started changing. Stay ready. Stay faithful. Stay expectant. Because heaven says your biggest breakthrough is closer than ever before, and the blessing reserved for you is moving toward you even now. Archangel Michael says, listen very carefully, because what I am about to reveal may be the missing piece you have been searching for without even realizing it. The breakthrough that heaven has been preparing is not only about receiving something new. It is also about becoming someone new. Many people pray for open doors, but few understand that God often transforms the person before He transforms the situation. That is exactly what has been happening in your life. Every challenge that seemed designed to break you was actually shaping you. Every delay that frustrated you was teaching you something. Every disappointment that made you question the future was secretly strengthening your spirit for the blessing that was coming. Archangel Michael says heaven has been watching your growth. Heaven has been watching your endurance. Heaven has been watching the moments when you chose faith instead of fear even when nobody else noticed. Those moments mattered more than you know. They were not ignored. They were recorded. And now the time is approaching when the results of that faithfulness will begin appearing before your eyes. You may feel as though you have been walking through a long desert season. You may feel as though your efforts have produced little reward. You may even wonder why others seem to advance while you continue waiting. But Archangel Michael says do not compare your journey to anyone else's journey. The timing attached to your destiny is unique. The blessing attached to your purpose is unique. The path prepared for your future is unique. What God is building in your life cannot be measured by someone else's progress. In fact, some of the greatest miracles arrive after the longest periods of preparation. Some of the most powerful breakthroughs emerge after the hardest battles. Some of the most extraordinary testimonies begin with seasons that appeared hopeless. And heaven says your story is not ending in disappointment. Your story is moving toward revelation. There are things happening right now beyond the limits of your physical vision. Archangel Michael says spiritual activity has increased around your situation. Doors that were once firmly shut are beginning to loosen. Obstacles that seemed permanent are beginning to weaken. Forces that attempted to stop your progress are losing their influence. You may not see it yet, but movement is occurring. Imagine a seed planted beneath the soil. For weeks there is no visible evidence. Nothing appears to be happening. But beneath the surface roots are growing. Life is developing. Strength is forming. Then suddenly one day the growth becomes visible. The same is true for many blessings. The development occurs before the manifestation. The preparation occurs before the breakthrough. And Archangel Michael says your preparation season is reaching a significant turning point. This is why you have felt unusual emotions lately. This is why certain thoughts keep returning to your mind. This is why your spirit has sensed that change is near. Heaven has been sending signals because something important is approaching. Do not ignore those signals. Do not dismiss them as coincidence. They are reminders that your season is changing. There is also a warning within this prophecy. Archangel Michael says when breakthrough begins approaching, distractions often increase. Confusion often increases. Doubt often increases. Negative voices often become louder. Why? Because whenever a blessing gets close, opposition attempts to redirect your attention. The enemy wants you focused on fear instead of faith. The enemy wants you focused on problems instead of possibilities. The enemy wants you looking backward when heaven is calling you forward. Do not fall into that trap. Refuse to allow temporary circumstances to define permanent truths. Refuse to allow fear to speak louder than God's promises. Refuse to surrender your expectation just because the answer has not appeared yet. Your breakthrough is not dependent upon how impossible the situation appears. Your breakthrough is dependent upon the power of the God who is working behind the scenes. And Archangel Michael says that power has not diminished. That power has not weakened. That power has not forgotten you. There are people listening right now who have experienced repeated disappointments. Every time you expected something good, another obstacle appeared. Every time you thought things were improving, another setback occurred. Because of that, you became cautious. You stopped expecting much. You stopped hoping as strongly as before because disappointment felt safer than anticipation. But Archangel Michael says it is time to dream again. It is time to believe again. It is time to expect again. The future is not required to repeat the past. Yesterday's failures do not have authority over tomorrow's victories. What happened before does not determine what happens next. God can create a completely different outcome at any moment. One phone call can change everything. One opportunity can change everything. One conversation can change everything. One decision can change everything. One divine appointment can change everything. Never underestimate how quickly heaven can transform a situation. What seems impossible today can become reality tomorrow. What appears blocked today can suddenly open. What feels delayed today can suddenly accelerate. Archangel Michael says many people are about to witness unexpected acceleration in areas where they previously experienced delay. Pay attention to the word acceleration. Not gradual improvement. Not minor progress. Acceleration. Things that moved slowly may suddenly move quickly. Answers that seemed distant may suddenly arrive. Opportunities that appeared unavailable may suddenly appear. This is one reason heaven has been preparing you. Sudden blessings require prepared hearts. Unexpected opportunities require readiness. If a door opens tomorrow, will you walk through it? If an answer arrives tomorrow, will you recognize it? If a blessing appears tomorrow, will fear stop you from receiving it? Archangel Michael says preparation matters because opportunities often arrive disguised as ordinary moments. Stay alert. Stay aware. Stay ready. Another message heaven wants you to hear today is this: stop underestimating your importance. Too often you focus on your weaknesses. Too often you focus on your mistakes. Too often you focus on what you lack. But heaven sees something different. Heaven sees potential. Heaven sees purpose. Heaven sees destiny. Heaven sees someone capable of accomplishing more than they currently imagine. The reason the battle has been intense is because your future carries significance. The reason the attacks have been persistent is because your breakthrough carries influence. The reason the opposition has been determined is because your victory will inspire others. Never forget that. Your breakthrough is bigger than you realize. There are people who will gain hope because of your testimony. There are people who will find strength because of your story. There are people who will believe in miracles again because they witness what God does in your life. That is why heaven refuses to abandon this process. That is why heaven continues working even when you cannot see the evidence. And that is why Archangel Michael is reminding you today that your greatest breakthrough is still ahead of you. The chapter you are entering will not look like the chapter you are leaving behind. New favor is approaching. New opportunities are approaching. New strength is approaching. New clarity is approaching. Even relationships are being rearranged. Some people who distracted you are moving away. Some people who support your purpose are moving closer. Some connections have completed their assignment. Some connections are just beginning. Trust the process. Trust the timing. Trust the wisdom of God even when you do not understand every detail. Heaven sees the entire picture while you see only a small portion of it. And according to Archangel Michael, the picture being painted is far more beautiful than you currently realize. So as this prophecy continues on this 13th day of June, receive this declaration in your spirit: your season of endless waiting is not permanent. Your season of confusion is not permanent. Your season of struggle is not permanent. Change is coming. Movement is coming. Restoration is coming. Favor is coming. Answers are coming. Opportunities are coming. Breakthrough is coming. And when it arrives, you will understand why heaven instructed you not to give up, not to quit, and not to stop believing. Because the blessing reserved for you was never lost. It was simply being prepared at the perfect time, and now that time is drawing closer with every passing moment. Archangel Michael says, there is something else you must understand before this prophecy continues, because the next few days may contain signs you have been praying for a very long time. Many people expect breakthrough to arrive with loud announcements and dramatic events, but heaven often moves in ways that seem small at first. A simple opportunity. A surprising conversation. An unexpected idea. A sudden feeling of peace. These moments are easy to overlook if you are not paying attention. That is why I am telling you now, keep your eyes open and your spirit alert. The blessing reserved for you may not arrive through the path you imagined. It may come through a door you almost ignored. It may come through a situation that initially appears ordinary. But what seems ordinary on the surface may carry extraordinary purpose beneath it. Archangel Michael says heaven is positioning pieces of your future into place even now. You have spent so much time focusing on what has not happened that you have overlooked how much progress has already been made behind the scenes. Think about where you were 1 year ago. Think about the battles you survived. Think about the fears you overcame. Think about the strength you gained. You are not the same person you used to be. The version of you that once doubted every step has become stronger. The version of you that once wanted to quit has learned endurance. The version of you that once felt completely alone has discovered that heaven was walking beside you the entire time. Nothing was wasted. Not a single tear. Not a single prayer. Not a single moment of waiting. God has been using every part of your journey to prepare you for this next chapter. And according to Archangel Michael, this next chapter carries more favor than the previous one. There is a lifting taking place over your life. There is a release taking place over your circumstances. There is a shift taking place within your spirit. You may not fully understand it yet, but your soul recognizes it. That is why you have felt different lately. That is why old fears no longer control you the way they once did. That is why certain doors that used to attract you no longer seem important. Heaven has been changing your perspective because heaven is changing your direction. The places where you experience disappointment are not where your story ends. The areas where you experienced loss are not where your destiny remains. God is leading you forward. God is leading you higher. God is leading you into something that will make sense of the struggle you endured. Archangel Michael says there are blessings currently traveling toward you that have been delayed but not denied. Read that again in your spirit. Delayed but not denied. Some of you believed the opportunity was gone forever. Some of you believed the answer would never come. Some of you assumed the door had closed permanently. But heaven says what belongs to you is still capable of finding you. What God has assigned to your future does not disappear simply because time has passed. The promise remains alive. The purpose remains active. The blessing remains reserved. And now movement is beginning to increase. There is a reason this message found you on June 13th. This is not merely another day on the calendar. For many listening, it marks the beginning of a transition. A crossing point. A spiritual line between an old season and a new one. You may not notice everything immediately, but over the coming days and weeks, you will begin recognizing changes. Things that once felt impossible will start feeling possible. Doors that once appeared closed will begin opening. Questions that remained unanswered will begin receiving clarity. And perhaps most importantly, your confidence will begin returning. The enemy spent a long time trying to convince you that you were powerless. The enemy spent a long time trying to convince you that nothing would ever improve. The enemy spent a long time trying to make you believe that your prayers were being ignored. But Archangel Michael says those lies are losing their power. The truth is rising. The truth is stronger. The truth is that heaven knows your name. The truth is that God has not abandoned your future. The truth is that breakthrough is closer than you think. The truth is that your story is still being written. The truth is that some of the greatest blessings of your life have not happened yet. Let that truth settle into your spirit today. Stop measuring your future by your current circumstances. Stop allowing temporary struggles to define permanent possibilities. Stop speaking defeat over situations that heaven is still working on. There is power in expectation. There is power in faith. There is power in believing before the evidence appears. And right now, heaven is inviting you to believe again. Believe that healing is possible. Believe that restoration is possible. Believe that provision is possible. Believe that joy is possible. Believe that miracles are possible. Believe that your breakthrough is possible. Because according to Archangel Michael, the moment you are entering is not a season of endings, it is a season of beginnings. New opportunities. New favor. New strength. New peace. New direction. New victories. These things are already moving toward you. You are not chasing the blessing. The blessing is being guided toward you by the hand of God. So stand firm. Refuse to surrender your hope. Refuse to let fear take control. Refuse to believe that the best days are behind you. The best days are ahead. The breakthrough is ahead. The answer is ahead. The restoration is ahead. And one day very soon, you will look back at this prophecy and realize that June 13th was the moment heaven reminded you that your greatest chapter had not been missed, it had only been waiting for the perfect time to begin. Archangel Michael says, before this message ends, there is one final revelation that heaven wants you to hear, because many of you have been asking the same question in your heart. When? You have prayed. You have waited. You have believed. And now you want to know when the breakthrough will finally appear. Archangel Michael says heaven rarely reveals exact dates because faith grows strongest when trust remains active, but I can tell you this, you are much closer than you think. The distance between your current situation and your next blessing is smaller than it appears. In fact, some of the things you have been praying for are already moving into position. What you call waiting, heaven calls preparation. What you call delay, heaven calls alignment. What you call uncertainty, heaven calls development. There are pieces of your future that had to be arranged before the blessing could safely arrive. There were lessons that had to be learned, strengths that had to be built, and doors that had to be closed before new doors could open. Now many of those preparations are complete. The ground beneath your feet has been strengthened. The foundation has been established. The season is changing. Archangel Michael says some of you are about to experience a moment that feels almost unreal. Something you stopped expecting will suddenly begin moving again. Something you assumed was finished will show signs of life. Something you believed was impossible will reveal a path forward. When it happens, remember this message. Remember that heaven saw it long before you did. Remember that God was working while you were worrying. Remember that divine activity never stopped even during the moments when everything appeared silent. Silence is not absence. Delay is not denial. Waiting is not abandonment. Heaven has been present through every moment of your journey. Every prayer spoken in tears was heard. Every request whispered in loneliness was heard. Every question asked in confusion was heard. And now answers are beginning to gather on the horizon. Archangel Michael says there is a difference between a blessing and a breakthrough. A blessing improves your situation. A breakthrough changes the direction of your life. And what many of you are approaching is not merely a blessing. It is a breakthrough. It is the kind of moment that creates a new chapter. It is the kind of moment that causes you to look back and say, everything changed after that. The opportunity changed everything. The conversation changed everything. The answer changed everything. The door changed everything. The miracle changed everything. This is why the battle has been so intense. Great breakthroughs often stand behind great resistance. But resistance is losing its grip. Fear is losing its authority. Doubt is losing its influence. The darkness that tried to convince you to quit is running out of time because your breakthrough is drawing near. Heaven is releasing fresh strength over your spirit. Fresh courage over your heart. Fresh confidence over your future. Stop speaking as though your best days have already passed. Stop talking as though your story is finished. Stop assuming that disappointment has the final word. It does not. God has the final word. And according to Archangel Michael, God's final word over your life is not failure. It is not defeat. It is not lack. It is not despair. It is victory. It is restoration. It is provision. It is purpose. It is breakthrough. There are people listening right now who feel exhausted from carrying responsibilities. You have been strong for everyone else while secretly feeling weak yourself. You have encouraged others while wondering who would encourage you. You have continued moving forward while carrying burdens that nobody else could see. Archangel Michael says heaven sees those burdens. Heaven sees the sacrifices. Heaven sees the hidden battles. And heaven is preparing relief. The weight you have carried alone will not remain forever. Help is coming. Strength is coming. Support is coming. The chapter ahead contains resources that the previous chapter did not contain. Doors of provision are opening. Doors of favor are opening. Doors of opportunity are opening. Trust the process even when you cannot see every step. Trust the author even when you do not understand every page. Trust heaven even when the path seems unclear. The same God who brought you through every previous challenge is capable of bringing you through this one as well. Archangel Michael says there is another reason this prophecy reached you today. Heaven wanted to remind you that your value has never been determined by your circumstances. You are not defined by what you lost. You are not defined by who walked away. You are not defined by mistakes from the past. You are not defined by current struggles. You are defined by the purpose God placed inside you. That purpose remains alive. That purpose remains protected. That purpose remains powerful. And no setback has been strong enough to destroy it. In fact, every attempt to stop your destiny has ultimately prepared you for it. What was meant to discourage you ended up strengthening you. What was meant to distract you ended up teaching you. What was meant to defeat you ended up developing you. That is the power of God at work in your life. Archangel Michael says the next season will reveal just how much heaven has been accomplishing behind the scenes. You will begin connecting dots that once seemed unrelated. You will begin understanding delays that once frustrated you. You will begin recognizing protection hidden inside previous disappointments. Suddenly things that made no sense will start making sense. Suddenly unanswered questions will receive answers. Suddenly confusion will give way to clarity. And when that happens, gratitude will replace frustration because you will realize that God was protecting you from things that were never meant for your future. The blessing reserved for you required a specific path. The breakthrough reserved for you required a specific timing. And now that timing is approaching. So hold your head high. Lift your expectations. Refuse to surrender your faith during the final stretch. The enemy wants you discouraged right before the breakthrough arrives, but heaven wants you prepared. Heaven wants you expectant. Heaven wants you ready. Because according to Archangel Michael, this is not the season where you give up. This is not the season where you walk away. This is not the season where you stop believing. This is the season where promises begin unfolding. This is the season where favor begins increasing. This is the season where doors begin opening. This is the season where restoration begins appearing. This is the season where miracles begin manifesting. And one day, sooner than you think, you will stand in the middle of the breakthrough you once prayed for and realize that every tear, every delay, every battle, and every moment of waiting led to this exact victory. Then you will understand why heaven kept telling you to hold on just a little longer, because the blessing reserved for you was never lost, never forgotten, and never given to someone else. It was being prepared for the exact moment God knew you would be ready to receive it. Archangel Michael says, now pay close attention, because this final portion of the prophecy contains a message that many people are not ready to hear, but you are. The breakthrough that is approaching your life is not only going to change what happens around you, it is going to change what happens within you. Heaven is not merely preparing a new circumstance. Heaven is preparing a new version of you. The person who enters this next season cannot think the same way, fear the same things, or carry the same limitations that existed before. That is why the process has been longer than expected. God was not only preparing the blessing. God was preparing the person who would receive it. Archangel Michael says there were moments when you thought nothing was happening, but heaven was doing its deepest work during those silent seasons. While you were waiting, your character was being strengthened. While you were wondering, your faith was being tested. While you were struggling, your spirit was being refined. Nothing was random. Nothing was wasted. Every challenge carried a purpose. Every delay carried a lesson. Every battle carried a hidden reward. And now you are beginning to stand at the edge of a season where many of those rewards will finally become visible. There are opportunities approaching that your past self would not have been ready to handle. There are blessings approaching that your old mindset would have struggled to sustain. There are victories approaching that require the strength you gained through the very struggles you once questioned. This is why heaven allowed certain things to happen the way they did. It was not punishment. It was preparation. It was not rejection. It was redirection. It was not abandonment. It was development. Archangel Michael says some of you are about to witness a sudden shift that arrives faster than expected. One day you will be looking at the problem, and the next day you will be looking at the solution. One day you will be worried about the door being closed, and the next day the door will be standing open. One day you will be questioning the future, and the next day the future will begin answering back. Never underestimate how quickly God can move. Human beings focus on the process because they live within time. God exists beyond time. What takes years for people can take moments for heaven. What appears impossible for human logic is simple for divine power. This is why Archangel Michael is telling you to stop limiting your expectations. Stop assuming that tomorrow must look like yesterday. Stop assuming that your future must repeat your past. God specializes in creating outcomes that exceed human expectations. The miracle may arrive from a direction you never considered. The answer may appear through a person you never expected. The opportunity may emerge from a situation that initially seems ordinary. Stay open. Stay ready. Stay attentive. Because heaven often hides extraordinary blessings inside ordinary moments. There is another reason this prophecy reached you today. Archangel Michael says heaven wants you to release something before the breakthrough arrives. Release the disappointment. Release the bitterness. Release the resentment. Release the fear. Release the belief that you have been forgotten. These things cannot travel with you into the next season. They belong to the chapter that is ending. The future God is preparing requires freedom. The future God is preparing requires trust. The future God is preparing requires expectation. You cannot fully receive tomorrow while remaining chained to yesterday. Let go of what tried to break you. Let go of what tried to discourage you. Let go of what convinced you that your best days were behind you. Your best days are not behind you. According to Archangel Michael, some of the most extraordinary moments of your life are still waiting ahead. There are prayers you have not even prayed yet that God already knows about. There are blessings you have not imagined yet that heaven is already arranging. There are victories you have not experienced yet that are already written into your future. That is how great God's plans are for your life. The enemy wanted you focused on survival while heaven was preparing abundance. The enemy wanted you focused on defeat while heaven was preparing victory. The enemy wanted you focused on endings while heaven was preparing beginnings. But the truth is finally catching up with the lies. The truth is that God has been working all along. The truth is that your breakthrough has been moving toward you all along. The truth is that heaven never stopped fighting for your future. Archangel Michael says the next chapter will contain moments that leave you speechless. Moments where you stand back and realize that only God could have arranged the outcome. Moments where pieces fit together with such precision that coincidence becomes impossible to believe. Moments where prayers spoken years ago suddenly receive answers. Moments where old pain is replaced by new joy. Moments where fear gives way to peace. Moments where confusion gives way to understanding. These moments are closer than they appear. The reason your spirit feels restless is because it senses movement. The reason your heart feels expectant is because it senses change. The reason you keep feeling drawn toward messages like this is because your soul recognizes that a transition is underway. Heaven is calling you forward. Heaven is calling you higher. Heaven is calling you into the season that follows the struggle. Do not be afraid of the change. Do not resist the transition. Do not cling to the familiar simply because it feels safe. Growth often begins where comfort ends. Miracles often begin where certainty ends. Breakthroughs often begin where fear loses its control. Archangel Michael says this is your moment to trust God more deeply than ever before. Trust Him when you see the evidence. Trust Him when you do not. Trust Him when the answers arrive. Trust Him while you are still waiting. Trust Him when the path is clear. Trust Him when the path is hidden. Because every step is leading somewhere important. Every season is serving a purpose. Every delay is working toward an outcome greater than you currently understand. One day you will look back and realize that the breakthrough did not begin when the blessing appeared. The breakthrough began the moment you decided not to give up. The breakthrough began the moment you chose faith over fear. The breakthrough began the moment you continued believing despite the obstacles. And now the visible results of that invisible faith are drawing near. So receive this final declaration from Archangel Michael on this June 13th prophecy: your season of constant struggle is not your permanent address. Your season of waiting is not your permanent reality. Your season of uncertainty is not your final destination. A new chapter is opening. A new story is beginning. A new level of favor is approaching. A new measure of peace is approaching. A new wave of opportunity is approaching. And when it arrives, you will understand why heaven kept telling you to stay strong, stay faithful, and stay hopeful. Because the blessing reserved for you was never in danger of being lost. It was simply waiting for the appointed moment. And according to Archangel Michael, that appointed moment is closer now than it has ever been before. Archangel Michael says, as this prophecy comes to its conclusion, I want you to hold these final words in your heart, because they may carry you through the days ahead. There will be moments after hearing this message when doubt tries to return. There will be moments when circumstances still look unchanged. There will be moments when the enemy whispers that nothing is happening. When those moments come, remember what heaven revealed to you today. Remember that visible evidence is not the only evidence. Remember that God is working even when human eyes cannot see it. Remember that some of the greatest miracles in history began in silence before they appeared in power. Archangel Michael says your breakthrough is not a fantasy. It is not wishful thinking. It is not a distant possibility. It is a divine assignment already moving through the unseen parts of your future. Every day that passes is bringing it closer. Every challenge you overcome is preparing you for it. Every lesson you learn is strengthening you for it. The road may not always feel easy, but it is leading somewhere significant. Heaven has not brought you this far to abandon you now. Heaven has not carried you through countless battles only to leave you standing without victory. The God who protected you in previous seasons is the same God who is guiding you into the next one. Archangel Michael says there are blessings connected to your future that are larger than your current understanding. There are opportunities waiting that will stretch your imagination. There are answers approaching that will bring peace to questions you have carried for years. There are moments ahead that will cause you to stop and say, "Now I understand why I had to wait." The delay was not meant to destroy you. The delay was meant to prepare you. The struggle was not meant to defeat you. The struggle was meant to strengthen you. The battle was not meant to end your story. The battle was meant to reveal your strength. And now a new chapter is beginning to emerge from everything you endured. Do not be surprised if people who once doubted you suddenly notice the change. Do not be surprised if doors that remained closed for years suddenly begin opening. Do not be surprised if opportunities appear where none seemed possible. Do not be surprised if favor begins finding you in unexpected places. Heaven has a way of accomplishing in a moment what people spend years trying to achieve on their own. That is why Archangel Michael says your responsibility is not to figure out every detail. Your responsibility is to remain faithful. Remain hopeful. Remain willing. Remain expectant. Let God handle the timing. Let God handle the strategy. Let God handle the impossible parts. Your task is simply to keep moving forward with confidence that Heaven knows exactly what it is doing. As this June 13th prophecy closes, receive this final declaration over your life: what God has promised will not fail. What God has prepared will not be stolen. What God has assigned to your future will not miss its appointed time. The blessing reserved for you remains reserved for you. The breakthrough prepared for you remains prepared for you. The purpose attached to your life remains alive, active, and protected. No delay has cancelled it. No obstacle has destroyed it. No enemy has defeated it. Archangel Michael says the season ahead will contain confirmations that strengthen your faith, opportunities that expand your vision, and breakthroughs that remind you just how powerful God's timing truly is. One day soon, you will stand on the other side of this season and realize that every tear had meaning, every prayer had purpose, every delay had value, and every battle carried a lesson that helped prepare you for the blessing that finally arrived. On that day, you will no longer ask why the journey was difficult. You will understand why the preparation was necessary. You will see how Heaven was weaving together details you could not yet see. You will recognize that God was protecting you, guiding you, and positioning you all along. And when that realization comes, gratitude will replace frustration, peace will replace fear, confidence will replace doubt, and joy will replace the heaviness you once carried. So walk forward with courage. Walk forward with faith. Walk forward with expectation. Lift your eyes toward the future and refuse to believe that your story ends in struggle. According to Archangel Michael, your story ends in victory. Your story ends in restoration. Your story ends in breakthrough. Your story ends with God's faithfulness shining brighter than every challenge that tried to stop you. And this is the final message heaven wanted you to hear today. Hold on a little longer, trust a little deeper, believe a little stronger, because what you have been praying for is closer than you realize, and the chapter that is about to begin will reveal that God was working for your good every single moment of the journey. This prophecy is complete.